join us today and discuss about the future of the cycling industry. And we'll start out our session with global insights and the necessary agenda for global leadership. And in case you don't have a seat yet, we kindly invite you to get seated in order to get started with our next session. I am delighted to now welcome the President of the Cycling Industries Europe. Please welcome with me Tony Grimaldi. Applause.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anne?
Happy to be here today. My name is Tony Grimaldi. I'm the CEO of Cycle Europe. I am also having the privilege to be the President for Cycling Industries Europe. And being here on stage, I reflect and I realize 15 years ago, I was focusing on my company, focusing on the organization, looking how to improve every day. And I didn't care so much about the politicians. I didn't really look into what all the important associations actually are doing. Then I have matured, and becoming mature means that I have realized that I have to take responsibility. I have to stand up. I have to, as a company, care. I have to really involve myself, because I realized when we are coming together in the bike industry, we are strong. We have a word, and we can be side on side to the car industry. But that is only possible if we step up. That has been only possible when I engaged myself in the association and in Cycling Industries Europe. The last 5 years, we have worked intensively to have a dialogue with the highest level in the European Commission. And I am very proud to realize that the advocacy and lobbying, what we have done, and with the dialogue we had with Franz Timmermans and his cabinet, and with the dialogue of the importance of the Green Deal, and with all the things that we have achieved, I was very proud in April this year, being in Brussels and talking in front of the transport ministers, signing the cycling declaration. I think this was so fantastic. We have a cycling declaration and we have a mobility transition pathway, thanks to the work we companies do with the associations. It's so important. And being here, we will have some global insights from leading associations. I have the privilege to coordinate. And on stage, I will introduce you here on stage. First, Jacqueline, welcome on stage. Jacqueline, representing the Taiwanese Bicycle Association and being the CEO of Armour. You should sit here, Jack. Welcome. Welcome on stage. And I would like to introduce Florian Bauer from Jobrad, representing new business model and how you can do things different. Welcome on stage. I will introduce Emma Schwiebler, Center of the World, representing the World Federation of Sporting Goods Industry. Welcome on stage, Emma. I would like to introduce a really Italian, but he's American actually, Larry Pizzi. Welcome on stage, representing People for Bike. And then I would like to introduce a real Italian, Massimo Panzeri, CEO of Attala and representing Koneby. So nice. We have the best association on stage. And here, what we will do here in front of the audience is to reflect on what kind of trends is driving us. And I will do a question to each one of you. And I will start with the Italian, Massimo Panzeri, representing Koneby. What are the trends and key issues of the industry Europe sees today, Massimo?
I would say that what we see is, for sure, new technical standard means bicycle with better feature characteristics in terms of durability, in terms of usage, open to the use of full kind of consumer, from sport to family, and with a wide and incredible number of possible consumers. For sure, the product that we have today and that we will have in the future, it's much more technological advanced and user-friendly than just a few years ago. We have a challenging as in the industry, especially in Europe, to establish new standards and to establish a product that will comply with the European Union standard, but also with the expectation of our clients and dealers.
Thank you, Massimo. And what are the key trends and key issues in USA from the perspective of Peoples for Bikes?
Well, thank you. I think there's a lot of very good reason to be optimistic long term about what's happening with cycling in the US. There are more Americans riding bicycles today than ever before, and American cities are transforming. At People for Bikes, we have a city rating system that we just released the results. 183 American cities are rated at 50 plus. We can talk about the metrics later, but 50, when you reach that benchmark, it's really a threshold for developing great cycling infrastructure. And in contrast, there were only 90-some cities last year that were at that 50 plus level. So I think, all the fundamentals are there. We have a very challenging industry today, primarily because of supply chain issues as a result of the pandemic, and financial owners are really hesitant to invest at this point in time. They want the industry to normalize or see some normalization, and my fear is that's a little further out than perhaps some of us would like that to be. However, long term, I think, especially with e-bikes, there's a great foundation that's been set and a lot of wonderful momentum, and I think it's the only category of cycles that are growing in the US today, even through the downturn currently. So good reason to be optimistic long term. Near term, we have to buckle down and work our way through.
But Larry, I'm curious, when you talk about the e-bike, will US take the same strong trend for the e-bike as US take that trend as we see in Europe?
Well, cycling in the US is a little different than it is in Europe. We're trying to transform that, building good infrastructure so people will use bikes for transportation. But cycling is largely sport, recreational, and fitness in the US. Transportation is probably number 4 on the list. So I think it will unfold ultimately in a similar way. I'm very optimistic and have been for more than 22 years about e-bikes. And I think it's bringing new participation, which is really important. And as infrastructure catches up with technology, I think there's a wonderful opportunity. S&P Global recently released a report that says e-bikes will grow at a compound annual growth rate of about 30%. But the numbers are not huge. By the end of the period that they're tracking, 2028, 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be 2 million units. So we have a long way to go.
You are coming there.
But very optimistic about the future.
Thank you, Larry.
Sure.
Going to the Asia, Taiwanese Bicycle Associations.
Yes.
Jack, what are the key trends you see in Asia at the moment?
Okay, well, I'd like to start with some statistical data to share with everyone. So in 2023, Taiwan's e-bike export dropped to 680,000 units, roughly 34% decrease. And the traditional bike also saw a steep decline from 2 million to 1.32 million units. Additionally, the export value of related components decreased by 45%. We're not doing too hot, are we? So the trends, because of the rise of e-bike, we see some trends and some key issues being transformation of a bicycle industry, transition towards e-ization, electricization, and I-ization, intelligentization, market impact, the entry of automotive, electronic, and new startup sectors in the PMD, personal mobility device market. And two more trends, technological revolution, so AI and digital transformation. And the lastly is the regulation policies. And the key issues we've seen is the net zero carbon emission and carbon tariffs. And that comes with challenges and opportunities. And sales channel transformation, impact on existing channel due to changes and optimizations. Supply chain demand imbalance. Now we're all facing high inventory level and financial risk challenges. Global supply chain. The global supply chain is concerning the security and resilience. And lastly, the labor shortage that we are facing, both blue and white collar, it's been a persistent issue. And these trends and issues illustrate significant challenges and opportunities within the rapid evolving bicycle industry in Asia. So that's so far.
Oh, thank you, Jack. Some challenges at the moment, some crisis, but yes, there is a strong future for possibilities within the E-segment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting to thank you, Jack. And going to what's happening now and what is fascinating, the business is growing thanks to many new services that we're seeing coming and thanks to new business models. So on stage with the associations, we have one of the best and leading companies representing new services and the managing director, Florian Bauer from Jobrad. What is your perspective on the key issues and trends at the moment, Florian?
Thanks a lot, Tony. I mean, the whole industry is in crisis mode, right? That's kind of the impressions you could get when you listen to the people, you read the articles. And here in Germany, the revenues are not what they're supposed to be. The supply chains are still broken. The oversupply hasn't gone away. Promotion is eating into margin. So you could say, well, the system is totally broken. But I'm happy that there are these beacons of hope, and I think there are these stories that are really a success, not only economically, but also for the entire market. And I'm happy that I can talk a little bit today about Jobrad, who is, I think, one of the stories, if not the story, in the German bicycle market. Just a couple of numbers to size up what we are actually talking about. We made over 1.4 billion revenues last year. Since the company was founded, we put more than 1.5 million people on their dream bike. Over 20% of the entire German retail revenues in the bike market is going through Jobrad, and more than 1,000 people are now working on creating new mobility solutions of the future. So that's a pretty impressive story in itself. But I think it's not only interesting for the huge economic success. I think there's also other dimensions that are worthwhile looking at. The first one is Uli Prediger, the founder. Many of you will know him. I mean, like any good entrepreneur, he is still a pretty stubborn guy in that he is not willing to exist seemingly given framework conditions. So a lot of the success had to do with his intense political work that eventually put the e-bike at the same level as the company bike in Germany, and this is kind of one of the sparks that really started the ignition of growth. And I think the second interesting part is that also timing played a major role. And I'm not talking about COVID, I mean that obviously helped, but I'm talking about two innovations coming together. The first was a product innovation that, you know, put the entire market to a different level, and it's called e-bike. And the problem with e-bikes is that they're pretty expensive. And here's where the business innovation of Jobrad comes in, because with Jobrad, pretty much anyone can afford an e-bike, because A, you don't have to front a lot of cash, and it's up to 40% cheaper than if you buy it in store. So I think in total what we have seen is that these two things together brought a whole new customer group to the market, which is actually replacing their car with a bike for their daily commute. I mean, they take their kids to school, they go to work, they go shopping. So I think these two trends together significantly enhance the total addressable market in Germany, which I think is a big accomplishment. But with that, obviously, also come new customer demands, right? So I don't know who of you owns a BMW. Maybe you raise your hand. So
a BMW?
A BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes?
Volvo.
Okay, well, maybe all. But I mean, compare when you last took it to the dealer and you had to do an inspection, right? And imagine how digitized the experience is, how cool the service experience is. Now compare that to the last visit to your local bike shop. I don't know how it is with you, but it's not been so long ago that I've been yelled at because my bike was not properly cleaned. Right, and I know there's a million different reasons why bike shops cannot provide the same service as car shops. The problem is these new customer groups, they don't care, right? They benchmark us in our digital customer experience about any given benchmark that's out there, whether that's e-commerce, online banking, car dealerships. And I think that's where we as an industry have to significantly up our game, because we have a lot of catching up to do in this respect. So for us, customer centricity is key here. And I think there's 3 focus points that I want to mention for us as an industry and also from our own experience. The first was we have to improve our digital experiences. That's key. We at Jobrad, we have won for the first time in a row the SAZ Award for the best digital experience in retail, but we still believe there's a lot of catching up to do. And in total, as an industry, we need to offer better digital services. That's the one thing that I would say. The second thing is look at the entire customer journey and play with the ecosystem, right? For us, our retail partners are a crucial part of the customer journey. So obviously they provide the bikes, but they also offer the services that come with every Jobrad. So what we have done is basically we have invested more than 60 million euros from last 4 to enable our partners and to basically subsidize them to provide great services for our customers. Quality-wise, but also quantity-wise. So you can basically get an incentive when you provide a certificate from one of the associations in Germany that demonstrate that you are doing good service. And basically what we've done here is we created a win-win for both parties. And I think that's the other key takeaway, right? Try to create win-win situations, ideally with financial incentives, because that many times helps. And the last one is don't stop innovating. So for us, we didn't stop at company bikes. We have more than 10 companies in the group right now that are working on new solutions. The most recent one is actually up on stage over there. It's called Wunderfix. It's about digitizing the service experience for D2C car makers. So for example, if you imagine you have a Canyon bike, something breaks after 6 months, you have to send it back to Canyon. They look at it, they exchange parts. Wait a couple of weeks, it's annoying, right? And what you do with Wunderfix is basically you can schedule a call with a trained bike mechanic. They look at the bike, they help you fix it. If they cannot fix it, they send you to a local store that already knows what is broken and can fix it. So I think that's kind of, for us, a good example how you can solve real customer problems with digital products. And I think to conclude, focus on customer centricity, focus on digitization, and focus on innovation. If we want to sustain our growth as an industry, I think that are the key issues that we need to consider.
And the e-bike is for sure driving a much more higher demand on better
Absolutely.
Service, more maintenance, and it's also pushing us that we have to lift us
Yes.
a lot related to that. Being here, talking a lot about the cycling industry, seeing that we have an incredible renaissance thanks to the e-bike. We have an industry that starts to be big, that starts to be something to count on. Being here, we are also here with Emma representing the world. And Emma, I have the privilege to be in your board. And then it's really encouraging to see, Emma, what you have achieved and what is actually happening when the sporting goods step up, take responsibility, and what are the key trends and what are the latest key issues related to physical activities that you would like to share with us, Emma?
Thank you very much, Tony. I think I never delivered a message on behalf of the world before, but I will try on behalf of WFSGI. But first, I would like to do something. And Michelle, I will ask you in the crowd, I would like everybody to stand up, please. Yes. And I want you to stand up and do some form of movement. If you can, if you cannot stand, stay seated, but I just want you to move your body. Yes, this man in the front row has it exactly right. Let's stretch out a little bit and do a bit of movement. Oh, perfect. I think I see everybody. Great. Okay, and give yourself a round of applause because that was good. I wasn't sure how that was going to land. No, but seriously, Tony asked me here today, and thanks also to Kevin for the opportunity to talk to you about physical activity. And obviously what we did there was a tiny little bit of movement, and the story I want to tell you about global physical activity levels is a story of two halves. It's first of all a big threat coming around the corner, and second of all a huge opportunity for our industry, and particularly some of the things you were saying about innovations the industry can do to bring in a broader customer base to cycling specifically, but to activity generally. These are the things we need to build on. So when we talk about the threat, and Larry, I thought it was very interesting what you said about the US market. Last week, the World Health Organization, they released their updated physical activity levels. So looking at global adult inactivity levels. It's the only globally comparable data set that exists for physical activity. It is not cycling specific, but it includes cycling as one of the different activities that can be considered. The data last week showed that 31% of the global adult population, or 1.8 billion people, do not move their bodies enough to maintain good health. This is a serious public health issue, and I will go on in a minute to why it's also a serious industry issue, but this is also not a short-term trend. That 31% is up 3 percentage points since 2018 and 5 percentage points since 2010. So this is a long-term trend that is continuing. We are continuing to become more sedentary, partially because of some of the fantastic innovations that have taken place on the digital front. But in all honesty, this is an issue we need to start talking about now, today, going forwards. That's the adult data set. The adolescent data set, so the adults of the future, the consumers of the future, the people that you will be trying to sell your products to coming around the corner, 11 to 17-year-olds, that's already at 81% of adolescents do not move their bodies enough to maintain good health. It's not really possible to say how shocking that figure is, but it also means that we really need to act now, and we need to act collectively as an industry to really use our voice to understand how can we encourage greater investment in physical activity generally, how do we get more kids into sport, how do we get more kids on bikes, and how can we do this together? Because this issue, 1.8 billion adults and 81% of the next generation, is way bigger than one company. It's way bigger than WFSGI, although I really enjoyed being called a representative of the world. It's still bigger than WFSGI, and we must cooperate together. And maybe just to hammer those figures home, I know there's been a lot of data on this stage, some incredibly interesting data, but I want to talk about two more data points with you. And that is that in 2022, the WHO, they calculated the impact on people being in ill health and the cost to global healthcare systems if that 28% figure didn't change. And at that time, we now know it's gotten worse, so these figures are actually, let's say, relatively conservative for what the situation is today. But they calculated that if that did not change, 500 million more people would fall into ill health at a cost of $300 billion US. Now that's a public health data set, but that effectively means 500 million more people who are less likely to be active, to cycle, to buy your products, and $300 billion less to spend on solving the problem. $300 billion less to spend on infrastructure, building safe cycle lanes, safe places to cycle, everything you just talked about, bike to work. So really, we have to act together. And I told you I would tell you about the threat, but I also want to tell you about the opportunity. And together at WFSGI, also with some of the other trade associations, sit here on the stage, and particularly with Tony, We have really been working hard to understand how do we elevate that industry voice, how do we align in this moment. This is not a competitive issue, this is pre-competitive, and this is something that we must address now if we are to turn around this trend. And last week, for the first time, we took a first step towards that. We released a joint industry statement signed by 12 regional and national trade associations across not just the sporting goods industry, but also the fitness industry. And we had 20 CEOs coming out from across the sporting goods industry, including 7 cycling companies, which was fantastic to have, essentially aligning their voice to that one message. More must be done, and we have to do it together. I would finish by saying this was just a statement last week. It was a fantastic moment. I was not allowed to call it a movement yet because a statement is a piece of paper. So I think all I can say now is that the commitment is there from WFSGI's side, not just to work alone, but to work with all of the cycling industry, also the other trade associations that we have. Because if we can come together in this moment and really align our voice to the fact that more needs to be done, there needs to be greater investment, we are a really powerful ally for what the public health industry has been articulating for years. Thank you very much, and thank you for standing.
Thank you, Emma. And I must say, it gives me inspiration to see being here with association and understanding and realizing we have all a responsibility to secure the good, healthy society. We companies have to be involved, and we need these associations to really develop, improve. I would like to thank Massimo, Larry, Emma, Florian, Jack, with a big applause for their performance on the stage. And we will finish with a photo together, standing up. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I think we should have a photo when we jump.
For this great moderation. I think, are you planning to take it a picture? Yes. Should I take it quickly then?
We will take
then
a picture when
quickly,
we jump.
Okay. So what you can do now is give them a round, loud of applause once again, please, yes? Okay, 3, 2, 1, jump. Perfect. 3, 2, 1, jump. All right. All right.
We look at him. Look at these guys. We jump with the thumbs up. 3, 2, 1.
Perfect.